Hey there, Math Moment Makers. It's Kyle here from MakeMathMoments.com and the Making Math Moments That Matter podcast. And I'm here to share with you a resource that I wish I had a long time ago when I was first trying to transition my classroom into something that would inspire students to become curious about math and to fuel sense making. There's some topics where it's a little easier to fuel sense making and also spark that curiosity. But there's also some other topics where it's a little bit more challenging, or maybe we just don't have enough time to kind of focus in on it. And we tend to just kind of introduce it and let it slide by. Which concept am I talking about? Well, you'll find out right after this. Stick around. So the concept that I'm talking about involves angle measurement, and in particular, when we're working with angle properties involving perpendicular lines and a transversal line that intersects them. So today we're going to be diving into a task, and actually I'll give you a little bit of a classroom sneak peek so that you can get a better sense of what this task is all about, how we spark curiosity, and how you might even facilitate the lesson with your own students. So before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button, do us a huge favor, and also hit the like button, maybe leave a comment, and share a big takeaway or a big win. And note that everything we share in this video will be shared, all the links and resources, in the description of the video. So let's get started. So first off, we're going to head over to the website, and we're going to have a look here at our problem-based math units. Now, we have over 30 tasks and full units with many more on the way. And we're hoping to kind of work our way from kind of the upper elementary and middle grades and start working our way outwards from there. So go check out what you've got. We've got a few new units that are out, like Sugar Cubes, which focuses on volume of rectangular prisms. We also have one involving multiplying decimals. So when we talk about tasks where we tend to, or concepts I should say, where we tend to sort of just rush to a procedure, or we're just not sure how we might spark curiosity and fuel sense making so students can build a conceptual understanding, I would argue multiplying decimals by whole numbers and multiplying decimals in general is one of those concepts. So definitely check out Missing Batteries. But today we're going to be spending some time in the geometry section here with sliding shelves. Now, while this particular task is a single lesson currently, we are developing a full unit for you to dive into, and hopefully it'll be out shortly after this video is released. So make sure you check it out. You'll notice when you head over to the sliding shelves page, you're going to have a series of tabs here. We start you right on the Spark tab, and I should also mention, while you can join the Academy and get all kinds of amazing benefits like access to professional learning courses and full teacher guides and all the downloadable resources, some of our tasks and units are wide open, including all of the teacher resources in the guide. So right now, this particular task is wide open for you. The guide is open currently for you to access and utilize so you can better understand the intentionality of this task. And it also takes you through to help you understand how you might actually facilitate this lesson, as well as how students might actually approach this problem so that you have a better sense of what you might anticipate when students are actually working on this problem-based lesson. So lots that you can do here. We're not going to run this right from the website today, although when you do run it, you're welcome to run it straight from the website, streaming video, and moving along with your prompts and different media images that you can share with students. And then finally, a reveal and some reflection prompts for you to consider. They're all for you there. Members, if you become a member, you'll actually have access to all the downloadable guides. So those will be for members only, not only downloadable guides, but also the actual media file. So if you want it to be on your computer as a keynote presentation or a PowerPoint. Those will be there for you as well as any handouts and printables, okay? But this task, though, you can actually run it straight from the web, and we would encourage you to give it a look. So let's take a deeper look by diving into a class where we have a virtual class of students participating. Note that I have cut out all of the wait time as well as all of the student voices and names and all of that stuff. So you're just going to hear me prompting students and sort of responding to what they're saying. However, you'll be able to see through the facilitation of the lesson what this might look like or sound like in your own classroom, whether you're virtual, which I would argue is a little bit more tricky, as you know, to run than a face-to-face lesson. However, you could use very similar prompts and similar approaches if you are back in a face-to-face environment. So let's not waste any time. Do us a huge favor, like we said, hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like button and leave us a comment. And let's dive into this classroom sneak peek. So I'm going to ask that in the chat you openly notice and wonder. And sir, as per usual, have them raise a digital hand if they want to turn their mic on and actually share some out openly, okay? There's no sound to this little clip I'm going to share, so don't worry about, you can invite them to share as the clip's playing. I'll play it a couple times, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that comes to mind. What are you noticing? What are you wondering? Like, what might the potential issues be with this little clip? Is everybody cool with that? Everyone feel good about that? Okay, this is my house in my basement, and I was doing a little bit of redecorating, and here's the situation, okay? And I'm not going to say much. I'm going to let you notice and wonder what's going on here, and I wonder if anyone has any wonders and maybe even wants to take a stab at what potential issues I've run into here. Here we go. All right, I'm wondering there, friends, what do you notice and what do you wonder? I'll run that through just again for you here real quick, just to kind of give you a little bit of eye juice here. What do you think? Anything coming up in the chat there, sir? I can't really see it from this screen. Oh, I love it. Start feeding them, sir. Like, let's start hearing what everybody's thinking. Ooh, some shelves, are not parallel. Interesting. Why is the yellow shelf so close? I like that word of like balanced. That's interesting to me. Like, they're not balanced. There's like, it's almost like something just feels right about, when a shelf looks balanced or maybe when it's not tilted. And I think that might even align nicely with this notice up here, this idea of parallel. Is anybody out there like willing to help us out with this word here, parallel, that you can barely read because I wrote it really poorly? I tried, and it was like, yeah, I mean, they took that out of the curriculum probably, when I was in elementary. So, that's why I can't do that. But I'm wondering out there, can anyone describe, like, what does it mean for the shelves to be parallel? Or alternatively, like, what does it mean if they're not parallel? Like, I'm wondering, because I feel like there's some synergy here between these two notices, and I'm curious there, sir. Keep those hands coming, sir. Ooh, two lines that never touch. And I love how you even describe this idea of, like, if you were to extend them forever, they will never touch. Like, it's one thing to have two lines and them not to touch right now. Like, these two are not parallel, these two markers. But if I extend them, they will eventually touch. So they would be not parallel. But if I can try to make them parallel, then they'll never touch. I kind of picture with parallel, I look at the two L's here and it kind of reminds me of railroad tracks. And I kind of picture the railroad tracks, like these two L's will never touch, just like railroad tracks. Interesting. Super cool. Awesome. Let's get some more notices and wonders, sir. I don't know. I'm wondering, like, is everybody okay with what a level is? Because I already told you, like, bringing out the screwdriver and the drill is kind of like stretching beyond my abilities for construction. But I'm wondering, anybody out there, like, what does a level do? Like, what does that help us with? Super cool. And actually, it kind of interesting because when you said level, it kind of brought me back to this idea over here, this idea of balanced, right? It's like if a level has that water in it and you're essentially trying to like balance the water bubbles or I think it's an air bubble in water or vice versa, that you're trying to balance and you're trying to get it right in the middle in order to show that it is nice and flat and level. And with these shelves here, yeah, like getting them level is going to be really important. Let's get a couple more here, and then we're going to dive into like some of the challenges we've come up against here. I think she said like a tool, right, sir? Like without like a tool of some type, like a level or anything like that. Like I wonder if there's like a way we can finagle this. I just brought out the finagle word, sir, on a Friday. Finagle. I love it. We've got lots of ideas here. So a few things like I think we should just kind of address. We've already addressed this idea of like parallel, tilted. This word crooked is new now that you just shared, which I think is great. We could maybe use a level, like a tool, to find the center of gravity. That could be really helpful. This wonder is interesting. So let me go back up to the top. Why is the yellow shelf so close to the ground? That's really interesting. And this is more of like, I'm going to answer this one. This is like some sort of like decorative feature that, I mean, sir, I'm sure you know this. I am not very in tune with like, decoration and sort of like what's in versus what's out of fashion. But I guess like having this as like almost like it's like a modern bookshelf, I suppose, where it's like supposed to like decorate the room, and having that shelf kind of low to the ground kind of like emulates the idea of like a bookshelf that would go straight to the ground. Now, again, I don't know. That's just one person's opinion here. So that's kind of why that's happening in this particular case. Over here, though, I'm curious because it's like if we have a level, it might be easier to figure out like how do we get these all lined up, because I want to let you know that is one of my challenges here, and you've sort of nailed this a little bit, because like we do have an issue where to the naked eye, like when I look at this, I feel like some of these shelves are not, we'll call it balanced. They're not, another word that we heard was level. They might be crooked, or they might not even be able to like hold things on them if they're too crooked, right? If they're too unbalanced. So they're definitely not parallel. And that's one of my challenges. And right here it said like, how can we make all these shelves parallel without a tool? Because guess what? I don't have one of these levels. And I'm sort of stuck between a shelf and a hard place. Or maybe it's a book and a shelf, if you know what I mean, sir, right? Ta-ta-ta? No? You like that? But between it, no, I won't go. I won't go there. Okay. Awesome. So that's kind of like where we're at here. And this is interesting too, because I don't know the answer to this problem, and it never arose to me until now. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to look into that. Like, what's the capacity of the shelves? Like, if I'm intending to put a lot of books on here, are we going to be okay? And then I'm also curious about this one. Like, if I didn't put this shelf up well, it could just be sort of like sitting there ready to tumble, or maybe it's unbalanced and it's sort of like keeping it in balance. I have no idea, but that's a really interesting one too. So we had lots of really interesting notices and wonders. And what I'm going to have you do is I want you to think about this for a second. We're going to have a look, and I want you to make an estimate. We're not going to put it in the chat yet, okay? I'm going to repeat that. We're going to hold back your estimate. I want to give you an opportunity to think. You might want to jot this down on a piece of paper or in another tab, wherever you choose. But I want you to kind of have a look at this, and I want you to make a claim. And it's all based on intuition. It's all based on your naked eye opinion here, which can be difficult. And I'm going to encourage you on this first estimate, try not to use any tools. So what I mean by that is I'm going to encourage you not to go grab a ruler or grab a piece of paper and hold it up to the screen. I'm going to encourage you, like, pretend like you're in a classroom and you're sitting at a desk and you see this up on the screen and you can't actually physically go to like play or like experiment. I will give you that opportunity shortly, but right now I kind of want your intuition. Like I want your spatial reasoning to go. And if you're like me, my spatial reasoning can trick me quite a bit. So we're not judging here on who does this right or wrong. This is more about like, what does your naked eye sort of tell you at first glance? And then we're going to give you an opportunity to update that estimate as we go. So I'm going to repeat what we're going to do right now. Before you share it in the chat, we're going to hold back. I want you to just visually look at this, and it just you and your screen right now, because we're all virtual. You're just kind of looking at this and you're going, which shelves are level? And again, if we reiterate what level means, right? What level means, it's like which shelves are parallel. And then even more so, because parallel lines can, they can go like this, they can go like this. When we talk about level, we're talking about like balanced. We're talking about like in line so that those books won't fall off those shelves. All right. And we're going to you can just name them 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can name them pink, blue, green, yellow. So this is the first shelf, the second shelf, the third shelf, the fourth shelf. And I want you to think about which ones are level. And then when we say go, we'll have you share it in the chat and we'll have a few people give their thinking behind this, okay? So we're going to hold back from sharing. I'm going to give you about a minute to think this through, and then you can start even typing it into the chat, but try to hold yourselves back from hitting enter. Okay, and I see Sirs put the prompt in the chat. I'm going to pause and I'm going to type what I just said so that you can get yourself prepared. Okay, so we're going to hold back from sharing if you can. If you've already shared, no sweat, but we're going to try just to hang tight just so everyone can kind of give this a look on their own. Holy smokes. Okay, so we're kind of all over the map, right? And that is to be expected because we're just using, like I said, we're just using our spatial reasoning here. Like seemed like a bunch of the group said like the pink and the blue. Some people, we had like lots of people feeling good about that. We had a lot of people feeling good about just blue. We had a lot of people feeling like none. And we had a couple people who said green and yellow. Okay, so we had a couple in there as well. So we're kind of scattered, right? Like, and this is kind of nice because it just shows sometimes things aren't as they might seem to the eye. Addison has a hand up. Addison, do you want to share your thinking there? What's going on in your mind right now when you look at these shelves and try to figure out which ones are level? So interesting. What an interesting perspective that might be really difficult. Like, so for example, it's like some people might think like, but if the blue one's not level, then how are the books staying up there? But if it's just slightly off, is what I'm hearing you're saying. Like if it's just slightly off, it might not be enough to like send the book off the shelf, right? Interesting. That's a really interesting take on things as well. So it's like there's actually a difference between whether it's level to the ground versus whether they are, if we say level with each other, or if we say like that they're parallel, right? If we go back to this idea of parallel, you know, the blue and I'm actually going to grab my pink and my blue marker here. Like the blue and the pink marker might be parallel, but they might not necessarily be balanced or parallel to the ground, which is really interesting. There's a lot going on here. I love it. How about Lauren? What are you thinking, Lauren? Interesting. Okay, now I am really interested. And first of all, I want to really applaud you all for engaging in this and truly using your spatial reasoning, right? And the reason I can tell is because we're kind of all over the map, right? So that's exactly what I was kind of hoping for, was like for there to be a little bit of dissonance here, like a little bit of like, I wonder if like, am I on the right track? Am I not? Like what's going on here? And I'm loving that. So now what I want you to do is I want to give you a little bit of time where I'm going to tell you that the blue shelf actually is level, okay? So the blue shelf is level. A lot of people had that and made that assumption. So super cool that you did. Again, hard to know for certain that it was level. So I'm going to tell you that now. I'm wondering, and I'm also going to give you an opportunity to think about which others are also level with the blue shelf. And I'm also going to open the door to allow you to kind of play with more than just your eyesight. Okay, so this time I'm going to encourage you to use whatever strategy you want. And I want to give you a little bit of time to do this. And here's the deal. First off, is there a way for you to sort of guarantee at this point? Notice I'm using the word estimate still, okay? So we're not looking for like 100% precision. We're not looking for like, you know, I got it right and you didn't. We're not looking for that at all. I'm curious about like, what are some strategies that you might be able to employ or put to use that will help us feel better or update our estimate to feel more strongly about our thinking, okay? And if I come back to what we had chatted about earlier, like basically, it's kind of like this question here. It's like we don't have a formal tool like a level. I'm wondering like what other ideas are there that you could put to use to help convince someone which shelves are level, just like the blue shelf, and which ones are not level. All right. So I'm going to turn my mic off. I'll even turn my camera off here for a couple minutes. I want to give you some time to actually think this through. Now, here's a challenge for you. If like you already have like you're like, I got this strategy, I feel really good about it. I want you to try to see if there's another strategy you can find as well that can help you with your case. I always think of math class as kind of like when you're trying to convince someone. It's like being a lawyer, right? Where you're looking for as much evidence to convince someone. We'll call your math community like the jury. You want to convince them of why you believe what you believe, all right? You can't just say it's this because of that. If they say, I don't really see or understand your thinking, it's always great to have another angle to come at it from. All right, so try to find a strategy. And then once you have a single strategy, see if there's other strategies that you might be able to employ that kind of help you kind of go like, oh yeah, like because of this, because of this, because of this, I know that these shelves are level with the blue shelf. Okay, I said a lot there, so I'm going to ad-lib it in the chat just so you can reference back with specifics on what we're going to have you do. I'm going to turn my mic and camera off now. But again, jot yourself some notes. Like, what are you going to share with us? What are you going to tell us after you've explored this a little bit on your computer? If you feel like you have at least one strategy you like or feel good about, let's raise a digital hand. Now, something else to consider here is like you might not be done putting your strategy to use. But if you're kind of like feeling good about like how you're going about things right now, I'm really curious to hear what folks are up to. Let's see if any of those digital hands go up here for sharing. All right, I'm going to go to Lily first, and then we'll go, it looks like in the chat, we're starting to see some sharing, which is great too. So Lily, are you willing to share over the mic? I'm sorry to put you on the spot if you aren't, but if you're not, that's okay too. But if you'd like to share, we'd love to hear. Interesting. So you're saying like, if I was to go like, let's say we were looking at like the blue and the green. And I wonder too, like as I make this bigger, if anyone's perspective changes at all. But if I go to like the blue and the green shelf here, what I'm hearing you say is like you want to, measure from here to here and maybe from like here to here. And what should happen if we were to do that? Like if I was to grab this and use this box as a measuring tool, what do you think should happen when I measure? Interesting. So let's do that. I'm actually really curious to see here. That's a really cool strategy. So it's like I can go from here and like I can use boxes or, since we're measuring a length, I'll make it a little thinner just so it's kind of like more linear, right? Like it's more like a tape measure. And I go to here. So like there's the length. I don't even know what the length is, but you're sort of telling me if I take this and if I slide it over here, if they're level, then I should have the same size. I'm not going to do it yet because I don't want to rob the thinking of anyone else yet, but I love that strategy. That was Lily's strategy, so I'm just going to write that down, Lily, and that way we can come back to it because we are going to use that strategy. And to be honest, Lily, you had mentioned that that's not necessarily the most efficient way, but even if, I feel like it's actually a pretty good one, right? If I have a tape measure around, that could be a really good strategy. One of my challenges is I guess maybe knowing whether this is actually level to the ground, but I see your strategy working where I could maybe do the same thing, right? Measure from here all the way to the ground to double check. Super cool. Any other strategies? Mr. Klassen, what's going on in the chat? Any other thoughts? I think Sir went for a coffee break, but actually I think his mic's probably just off. I do it all the time. I love it. I'm going to put this right here, and I'm just going to put Addison. That's a really cool strategy, especially in a digital world, right? Like where we are in a digital world, it's very easy for me to do that. In the actual world, maybe a little harder, but I love that thinking. Like I love that strategy of like essentially cloning, making a copy of this and translating it up and down, like shifting all the way up and down just to kind of see like, do they line up? I love that strategy. We'll use that strategy as well to double check a little later. So I've got that on the screen as well. I love it. Any other hands out there? Are these the only two possibilities? Oh, okay. I don't know why I can't see it. So you're saying like, if I was to go, and I'm going to focus on the blue shelf for a second, you're like, if I take this blue shelf and if I line it up with the screen, if it's level, then it should line up like pretty much perfectly. And the same should be true for these other shelves. What a cool strategy. Again, another like kind of like digital strategy as well. I'm just going to put this here to remind me to come back to that idea. So Aiden was saying, yeah, I could basically take, and pinch and zoom in if I'm on a mobile device, or even in this case, I can actually like zoom in on the screen like I did here to like compare it to the outer edges of the screen. What a cool comparison. What a cool idea. These are all great, and we're going to come back to them. I'm going to help you with those. I'm actually going to put these side by side. I'm going to give you a different look at them so that you've got like, we know the blue shelf is level. And I'm wondering if you can prove this to us. And here's what I'm going to do to maybe like give you a little bit more information. I wonder if this is going to help or hurt anyone. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to give you a moment. I say a minute or two to like, now that you've got this, okay, so we are going to double check those other strategies. We are going to use those strategies. I'm wondering, now that you have this, let's assume for a moment We don't have a digital device, right? So we don't have like, it's not on the computer. I can't like clone things easily and translate them around. I thought that was such a cool strategy. We definitely could in the real world. If I have a tape measure, I could use the tape measure to help me. That's definitely a strategy in the real world we could use as well. But now that I have this, I wonder, and I'm going to tell you too, I'm going to kind of restrict you a little bit. Like I actually can't move these shelves to kind of like mirror them on top of the other shelf. I'm wondering, like, what might you do now if this is what you've got and you're at home right now? How are you going to use this to help you, or can it help you? I don't know. I'm going to give you a little bit of time here before we share out. All right. Any thoughts there? I see a hand. I think a hand came up. I'm going to go like this for a moment. And I'm just going to zoom in on these two right here, which may or may not like visually be helpful. I don't know. But now that I've got this like line, like something I did have at my house was a broomstick. And, without having to move the shelves, I didn't quite have like a measuring tape with me. So the strategy to go like from the tops to the bottoms, I knew when, just like you, sir, like, you call your dad, and my dad came and hung the blue shelf. He's like, it's level. And then he was like, now you're on your own. So then I went and I put up this green shelf, but then like my wife was looking at it and she was sort of like, what are you thinking here? She's like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. So we went and we grabbed the broomstick and we tossed the broomstick there, and she thought this was going to be helpful, but I wasn't really sure. And she was kind of eyeballing a few things. So what she did is she actually came and she went and grabbed like a piece of paper, and she went like, from here, and she kind of went and she cut out this little piece like this. And then she went up, and I'm going to keep this straight just so it's like nice and straight, like a nice triangle here. I might have to do a little adjusting, but she went ahead and let me go ahead and just delete that for a second. Well, that's not helpful, is it? Yeah, but that's actually, sir, I'm actually really, this is a great spot to be in, because like, I'm just wondering, like, if I have this piece of paper here, like, what could I do with that to help me? Like, what might help me here if I kind of have this? I'm like, wow, that fits nicely right there. So I cut this piece of paper right there like that. I'm wondering, I think I see a hand, sir. Okay, let me do one thing here. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the last screen just to grab this text. This was Sir watching his dad taking care of the shelf for him. But I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to call this like angle 1 up here. Like I'll put this over here. We'll call maybe this like 2. And let me go ahead and just like name these or number these for you, just to see if that makes it easier for you to describe. Because I think I hear what you're saying, but I don't want to guess and then be like way off, So like where do you think that should fit if these are level? And in 7. Okay, so I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to put down, and first off, I want to thank you for sharing. So right now the consensus is that angle 2, so like this angle right here, and actually I'm going to do something a little different so it looks more angly to you. Like check this out. If I go like this, angles, we tend to look at angles a little bit more, and usually when we do an angle measure, like we just kind of put like an angle in there. But what I want to do is kind of make it look more like that, so it's really clear where we're measuring. We're measuring from like this line all the way across to this line right here. And what I heard was you said it should go, 2 should go, or should be equal to angle 3 and angle, I think you said 7. All right, now I'm going to give you a moment. I want everyone sharing this in the chat. Angle 2 right here, which other angles, and I want you to name all of them. If these shelves are balanced, which other angles should be the same angle measure, like the same piece of pizza that I stick in here, which ones should be the same if these are in fact level and parallel? I'm gonna let you start sharing in the chat which ones. I see 3 and 7. Maybe you feel good about 3 and 7. Are there any others? Are there any others there? Alice is saying 3 and 7. Addison says 6. So we saw a lot of 3 and 7s. We saw another 3 and 7. We saw a 6. We saw a 3, 6, and 7. All right. We've got a few more. Lauren, I think, was saying, whoops. Which other ones there? 2, 6, 1, 5. Oh, I think what you might be doing is like you're like naming all of the equal angles and like kind of comparing them. Okay, interesting. That's super cool. All right. So it looks like we've got a couple options here. Here's what I want to do. I want you to use a digital hand so we can do a quick little vote here. Which one is, we'll say, most accurate, okay? Which one's most accurate? If we're looking at this one right here, throw up your digital hand if you're feeling good about 3 and 7, and they're the only ones that are equal to angle 2. So if they're the only ones. Okay, we're seeing no hands so far. How about just 6? Is just 6 good? How about this one here? 3, 6, and 7. Let's see digital hands if you think 3, 6, and 7 are all equivalent to 2. I'm only seeing a couple hands. I'm wondering, and oh, no, I'm seeing more and more hands going up. Interesting. Love it, love it. Okay, so I'm feeling good about these. This one is in that one, and this one is also in that one. So I'm gonna leave that one up, and let's do a quick little test to double check. Let's go ahead and grab this and measure this thing out. Okay, so here we go. 6, they said. Okay, so they said 6. Let's double check. 6 looks pretty close. Pretty close. You know what's hard though is like if it's exact or not, but that looks pretty good. I like it. How about this one? I'm just gonna flip this around. Let me flip that like that. And let's look here. So 7, I think 7 was on there. Yep, 7 was on there as one. Let's see, that feels pretty good. I don't know though if it's, whoops. Oh no, I don't know if it's perfect though. This is gonna be tough. This is gonna be hard. Okay, and let's try the other one, I think was 3. These look good, but it's almost like, I don't know if it's precise. Oh, look at that too. Like, I don't know if it's precise enough. What I'm trying to highlight for you friends is that it's hard to be like super accurate without a super precise measuring tool. So what I want to share with you, I really like this. I think I agree with all of you that these angles should be equal if these two shelves are parallel. All right. So what I want to share with you next is a little bit more information here. I want to share the following. I'm going to give you this, and I'm wondering if you could take this idea, and I'm going to grab and bring them along for the ride. Based on what you're seeing now, how do you feel about this? And how are you going to prove this? So I'm going to give you a little bit of time. I'm going to have you work on maybe just this first one first. If you feel like you're good with that one, you can move on to these other ones as well. But the part that I'm really curious about is like, how are you going to convince me what's going on here? Because there's like, I don't know. Sir, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to convince anybody on this one. But I'm hoping someone in your group can. So I love it. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and give them a little bit of time. I'm really curious to see what they come up with. More specifically is like how you're going to kind of prove to me, because it's like these look the same. But again, it's like, so do the, like all the shelves kind of looked balanced, right? So I'm like, now I have some measures. You know, we actually had a protractor and we could actually measure the angles. But unfortunately, we didn't get this angle or that angle or that angle. So I'm curious to see what people come up with. All right, while you might still be busy playing over here, trying to figure out which ones are level with the blue shelf and which ones aren't, I'm curious about this one right here. I'm wondering if anyone can give me sort of like, almost like paint me a picture, like describe to me what you're thinking, like where you're at, you know, how are we gonna, I don't know, like, I don't know how we can get more precise than what I've got here. Like these look good, these pink little angle measures here. Like they're like almost like picturing like cutting a piece of paper and like putting it in there and then double checking. It's kind of like using the measuring tape. It's hard to be exactly precise that way, but with angles, I can get pretty precise, right? To the nearest degree, which is awesome. How about Carter? Like, what's your thinking here? Like, how are you going to convince someone? Like, let's say, you know, tonight you're at the dinner table, you're with, you know, family or friends or you know, other friends, and you're sitting there and you're trying to convince them, but they're just not, you know, they're not convinced based on what they're seeing right now. What are you going to say to them? Whoa. So tell me, so is it okay? Like, are you telling me like, help me, like, how would you prove that to someone? What could I do? There's tons of ways we could do this, but you're saying they're not balanced. They're not parallel because this angle plus this angle equal 181, I think you said. And it should be 180. Like, so how could I model that? And I'll do my best to try to model what you're saying to us here, Carter. So you're telling me that this one, I'm almost like, you know, right now, if it's 62 degrees, when I add these together, I'm getting 100, I think you said 181. Why is that bad? You already said it. I just want to reiterate it for a few friends here. Why is that bad? Interesting. So a straight line has an angle of 180 degrees, which is half of a circle, right? So if I was to take like a whole circle and I was to like chop it in half, I would get like two 180 degree. If it's 360 degrees around the whole circle, half of the circle will give me 180 degrees. So here's like, you know, if I kind of picture this, I put this circle right here and then I put it in the background for a second. Like, let's do this. It's almost like you could see it's like right from here all the way to there should be 180 degrees, but it's 181. That is a huge problem. Interesting stuff. I'm wondering, what would this be then? If you feel good about that, like, so Carter's saying like, actually this angle is not the same as that angle over here. It's saying this is 61 degrees in order to get that correct. Let me go ahead. I'm just going to change the color there. So it's like it's very similar, but different. Interesting. I'm wondering though, like what would like maybe, I don't know, what would this angle be? Or like, what would these other, like, how about this one over here? Like, so you're telling me this one's 61 degrees. Is this angle up here 119 degrees? Anyone with a hand willing to help us out with that? What do you think? We got a couple up there. How about Lauren? What do you think, Lauren? Interesting. Oh, that makes a ton of sense to me. So these add up to 180 degrees. So I've got to adjust that a little bit. Okay, here's what I want to challenge people with then. All right, so it seems like we're on a good little stretch here. I'm going to give you some time to apply some of that knowledge to our other shelves so that we can try to definitively declare whether these shelves are parallel or not. We know that these ones right here are not level is what I'm hearing. Now, this isn't letting me write anything. There we go. Not level right here is what I'm hearing. I'm curious about these other ones here. And actually, if you really want to be on top of things, I'm curious about like these other angles, like angle 1. What about like angle 5? Like what would angle 5 be? And then I'm wondering whether these shelves are parallel or not. So I'm going to give you a little bit of time for that. We'll share those out. And if you can describe this to us, maybe you have an image or a picture to share of your thinking, that would be ideal for us to get a sense of where you are at. All right, what are we thinking there, sir? You think people have a little bit of an idea here about our other two shelves? And in particular, I'm curious about some other angles too. Look at that, eh? Double click on the old microphone. Thanks, sir. You and I are really knocking it out of the park today with the muting. Fee you, eh? Holy smokes. Awesome stuff. Let's start with Addison. Addison, what are you thinking there? And then actually, sir, we're going to really try to nudge some of our other friends who haven't shared yet. Remember, I hope you know, like, I don't want to be scary here. I know that I'm still pretty new around these parts, but I do want to hear some other friends and hear your thinking. Because again, this is one of, I don't know, it's like when you're interacting in the digital world, it's really easy to like, you know, get distracted and not put that effort in. You're here, you're logged in. I'm telling you, it's so worth it in the long run for you to participate and share this thinking so it sticks. So we'll start with Addison and then we'll see if we can encourage a few other friends. You what are you thinking? Ooh, tell us more. Like, so you're feeling that these are level. I'm going to toss this down. Holy smoke. So you were basically telling me that this part right here, you said these are supplementary angles. I love that language that you're using, supplementary angles, and they add up to, look at that, they add up to 180. Now, something weird just happened in my Teams. Am I still there, sir? Or did I get booted? Woo! I heard one of those hang up sounds, and I was like, oh gosh, that's not good. Okay, so I'm still there. So we're feeling good about that right there. And actually, if I look over here, that means like this bubble should probably fit pretty nicely in there. Remembering, it's hard to be exact because these measures are so, you know, they're so close, and we're human. And I made these angles as a human, as the human I am. So we're feeling good there. And then it looks like you've made some other, oh, look at that. I'm wondering, does anyone remember, how do I know that this angle is the same as that angle? Because I'm sort of seeing the, I don't know here. Anyone remember what that's called? Like these angles across this transversal? We call this a transversal line. Transversal. Interesting. I see a few more. We need some more hands here, sir. Like, holy, you know, we want to make sure people are rocking this before we set them off to do their consolidation prompts here. What do we think? Sir, do you want to be the one to oh, I think there's some others. Ooh, I love this. This could be an interior angle. There's kind of a special name for the relationship between this angle and right across from it. I don't want to like give away the word, right, sir? Like it's like they're like right across from each other. Love it. So we've got opposite angles here. They call that an opposite angle theorem if you want to get technical. Super cool. So that tells me that, wait a second, like this angle should also be equivalent as well, which it sounds like folks are starting to see. And it's like, oh, look at that. Something really interesting about this is that if I was to add up all these chunks, it's like, well, if this chunk is 180 degrees and this chunk's 180 degrees, look at, once again, we get that magic 360 degree circle. Like those chunks kind of go and fit so nicely in that circle. Now, I was sort of estimating I should have maybe started my chunks in more of a circular fashion, but you get the idea there when you put those together. Super cool. And we've actually got some copies of this right here. Look at that. We heard this from our friends as well, that, you know what? That I think this shelf is balanced and level. Whoops, I only need this one right here. Look at that. Super cool. So not only do the pieces fit nicely, but also we can double check using our math to ensure the same's true over here. Like this whole thing, these circles should, or these angles should all add up to 360 degrees. And so should these as well. Even though these shelves aren't parallel, these angles should be consistent and these angles should be consistent. And we have our last one as well. I hope some people are starting to see it's like, well, if this angle and this angle are the same, and this angle and this angle are the same, then, oh darn, like this one should not be level, not level over here, because guess what? The opposite angle theorem will not hold here. 58 degrees and 59 degrees, that is not good. That does not provide us with the same equivalence. So I want to share this before I set you off with a little task and we get on our way. Let's double check here. So we're looking at this. We feel like green and blue, no dice. Blue and pink, awesome. Blue and yellow, no dice. Let's see if that holds up. Let's have a look. Let's toss some books on these shelves. Here we go. There's our pink shelf. Our green shelf. Oh, darn. The green shelf. We've got an issue. That is a shame. My goodness gracious. These books are my favorite books too, sir. And oh my goodness gracious. What do you know? I think we've got some consistency. I think we've got some consistency here amongst what has happened and what we found, that the only level shelves are the blue and the pink shelves. My goodness gracious, sir. I've got 2 consolidation prompts for our friends, okay? So I'll take some screenshots, but maybe, sir, you might want to take some screenshots of these 2 prompts as well. And I'm going to encourage them to submit them to you so you get a good sense of where students are with this angle measurement stuff that we're doing here. And then I'm going to be, while they're doing their consolidation prompt, I'm going to be going to actually adjust my shelves. But in order to adjust them, I need their help. And this is what I'm going to be leaning on them for. I'm hoping that they can fix our 2 shelves here, okay? So we know these 2 work. But like, what do I need to fix here to make the green shelf parallel to the blue and the yellow shelf parallel to the blue so that they're all parallel to one another? All right. 2 more shelves. They can be parallel to the blue shelf or not parallel to the blue shelf. All right. What we want them to do is to give the angle information for the first shelf so it makes it easy to determine if it's level, and angle information for the second shelf that makes it difficult to determine if it's level. So you're comparing, you're going to create like 2 more shelves. You could call it like, I don't know, like a turquoise shelf and a beige shelf. And we want like one of those 2 shelves to be level to the blue shelf using your own transversal line. And we want the other shelf to be not level or not parallel to the blue shelf, again, using your own transversal line. Okay, I'm going to snap another picture of this consolidation prompt. And most importantly, we want you to kind of convince us in both of those cases. All right, so I'm going to scooch back to the first prompt here, and we'll leave it up on the screen for friends to get started on. Sir, is there anything you want to reiterate to them about like how you want them to share their thinking back to you? All right, Math Moment Makers, hopefully you enjoyed that sneak peek into a classroom where we were diving into our sliding shelves task. from our website. Again, leave us a comment. Let us know what resonated with you. What would you do differently? Because keep in mind, just because I ran a lesson one way doesn't mean it's the only way that you could do that. There's always something new for us to learn. And I would argue every time I run a lesson, it actually does look a little different based on my reflecting on the previous time I facilitated. So keep that in mind. Do us a solid, leave us a comment and a thumbs up, letting us know what resonated with you. And keep in mind that you can actually grab our Make Math Moments framework by heading to our website, makemathmoments.com/framework. And you can download a guide that really helps break down some of the routines that I've used throughout this particular video, as well as some others that maybe we didn't see today. And it'll help you transform your lessons as you go. And then finally, remember the task from today is available up on our website. We've got over 30 problem-based lessons and units there for you to dive into. Some of my favorites include our most recent fraction units that we've shared, including our 2 dividing fractions units, both partitively and quotatively. Now, if those 2 words don't, resonate with you because you're not really sure what they mean, well, guess what? We also have some other units in there that help you break down this understanding of division that I know I didn't have, both as a student as well as an educator in the classroom, but I realize how important understanding the 2 types of division really is as we go into dividing fractions and also working with working with proportional relationships, ratios, rates, and all of that wonderful stuff. So make sure you dive in there, do some learning, and of course, if you like what you're seeing and you want to dig deeper, of course, join us in the Academy. You can grab 30 days for free. If you're on summer break right now, what a great opportunity to dive in, do some learning, and join us. And of course, you can cancel at any time. So we will see you on the inside and next time on the Making Math Moments That Matter podcast, as well as our Make Math Moments YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out with us and have an awesome, awesome day.